Hello, I'm here with Antara Mane, and we're going to discuss Filecoin. Hi, Antara. Want to introduce yourself?
Hello. Sure. Thank you so much, Joey, for having me here. And I've been seeing your post, what you've been doing, like researching more about Web3 enabler and Filecoin, and it just it's an interesting area to altogether look into, and I'm very fascinated about whatever work you have put in, and and each and every area that trying to cover in this cybersecurity zone. So yeah, again, thank you for having me. Hello, everybody. My name is Antara, and I've been into cybersecurity domain for more like 5 years, and covering like each domain into it. I began my journey as a web pen tester, then growing more into APIs, security governance, covering like mobile security, then infra, then cloud, and now it's like now in this zone as AI is making more noise, so I'm just like taking a few of my focus on that scale as well, and as what every pen tester do in their own journey to find some niche technique into breaking things. So that's overall what my role is all about, breaking and fixing things. That's where my expertise lies. Yeah, so that's just a short
Wonderful.
intro.
Yeah, really, doing everything, jack of all trades. So that's really impressive. Glad to have you. So, in general, what excites you most about Filecoin and Web3 in general?
Uh, So, Filecoin and Web3 enabler, it's more of a like it represents uh, a fundamental shift from a centralized internet infrastructure. Like we all know it's most probably dominated by the big techies in the market, such as Google, AWS, Amazon, and Microsoft, right? So to decentralize it and to have a peer-to-peer protocols where users control and verify the data. So I think that's a huge shift, I would say, from centralized to a decentralized concept, and from a security centric. So as a like being in the security professional background, what excites me most about Filecoin is like how it decentralized control and redistributes trust. So in an traditional Web2 world, we rely heavily on centralized providers to store our data, manage our identities, and secure our content on an infra level as well, which creates like a single point of failure on much cases. Like major privacy risk lies at their end, and there are like other data privacy concerns as well. But Filecoin basically flips that model on its head. So the benefits that stands out, it's like you have your own data strip. So Filecoin enables users to store, encrypt their own data on a decentralized network. So that in that way, the user holds the encryption key, ensuring the data confidentiality and all the privacy concern that the user might have, right? Then there is censorship resistance, right? In Web2, basically, the other corporates or the government agencies, so basically they can deplatform you by deleting the content, like. But in Filecoin, it's like an distributed architecture. So the content is replicated globally, making it making the censorship extremely difficult. So that's more of a like what excites me more about it.
Yeah, that certainly is exciting, and you're right. It just, it solves a lot. It addresses a lot of the security concerns that we deal with on a regular
Right.
basis, um, almost, or organically and without, yeah, without vendor lock, and just great. Um, Really, like, the ownership aspect is
Right.
phenomenal. Um, And Filecoin and IPFS uses content addressing, which is a method where data is identified by a unique fingerprint,
Right.
content ID or CID, rather than its location. And this has a lot of security benefits for improved
Correct.
integrity and availability. So,
Correct.
for example, it can prevent link rot or improved availability. Um, and it can also verify origin and authenticity and control how resources are loaded and executed. So as a fellow security professional, how do you think that this specifically could improve many of the systems that you've reviewed in addition to a content security policy?
Right. So, like the traditional way where we have like user-owned infrastructure, so that encourages a world where users are responsible for their own security, and they participate more into like they engage or they themselves involve more into understanding the risks or building the risk profile for themselves, right? So having taken up the ownership for our own cryptography architecture is brings in more reliability like as from my understanding, and there is also this a zero trust design like this, the Filecoin model. It like assumes that there is no central authority, and then which aligns best with the practices in modern security. So it's like you have to define some sort of significance for your info system that you have been dealing with, and then segregate like which asset requires more attention or which requires more risk profiling to be done, and then take the necessary steps accordingly. So I think it brings in a lot of reliability when it comes to cybersecurity, talking in today's world context.
Well said, well said. And yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned zero trust because it's just such a commonly used principle and concept that's discussed in the enterprise world. But really addressing it as the root cause is what it is, rather than kind of aggregating a bunch of vendors who pitch zero trust. Like this is zero trust as at its core, and how it should be. And by keeping it to its core in that sense, it also could help protect against a bunch of supply chain attacks,
Correct. So just
better
nothing,
than
verify everything.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well said. Great. And so a recent Vasari PayFi ecosystem analysis report describes a six-layer technology stack initially
Mm-hmm.
by Huma Finance, and this refers to the seven-layer OSI model with which we're both familiar. And I think the fact that this framework exists today says a lot about the promising future of the Web3 payment tech. What do you think? What do you think this means? The fact that, this discussion is taking place.
Right. So the PayFi six-layer stack, I think it's proposed by Huma Finance. It basically mirrors if I'm not wrong, it basically mirrors the OSI model, uh, but it's focused on more on like Web3 payment infrastructure. So it includes layers like uh, application layer, that's the UX and wallets, and then there is a identity layer. Then there is agreement layer, I think. Then there is rich layer. I'm not sure what it is. I think I remember the last one, that is the capital layer, basically like liquidity pools and lending protocols. So the PayFi stack, it is a strong signal that Web3 is maturing beyond protocols into structured infrastructure. So much like the OSM model helped formalize the networking, so this stack will help ensure the secure, modular, and interoperable payment system emerge. So why this stack is security relevant? Because the the layer itself explains. So I just take a quick example of the first layer, that is the layered security control. So you can map controls per layer. So say for example, authentication at an identity layer, for anomaly detection at the risk layer, and then various so forth, right? So for modular auditing as well, for all the auditors and red teamers, they can basically review each and every individual layer for identifying the weaknesses, identifying the risk areas. So they could actually, go ahead and do the threat profiling, like do a risk assessment on it, and similar to how the network reviews have been conducted for the existing OSI layer, right? So yeah, that's another thing. So talking about more on this, so it also adds on to the factor of composable structure, that which is pretty much equivalent to composable defense. So specialist systems like Filecoin, uh, so and all the other decentralized leading protocols, so they can plug in independently. So this allows for defense in depth. Like for each layer, it enforces its own security policies, which ultimately strengthens our overall security architecture. Then comes in the standardization part of it, like with a common six-layer model, and different stakeholders, all the developers, auditors, compliance officers, they can like speak the same security language when it comes to designing, testing, or remediation system. So think of it like Swift plus Visa plus your bank app. But it's more like modular, transparent, and programmable, where every transaction can be traced, verified cryptographically without needing a third party's intervention. So I think it's more uh, like trustless finance, that is which is also governable and auditable. Uh, Something we like need working in this in this model. So like with reserving our privacy aspects of it. So it's like a leap ahead of traditional fintech.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm super impressed. And also like, as far as the application layer aspect and wallets specifically, there's so much even there.
Right,
Regarding knowledge, regarding the organizational level controls.
right,
Um, because we are aiming for enterprise adoption and streamlining that. So, combining the fact that many of the end users, or the people conducting payments with the enterprise will have self-custody wallets.
right,
And but as far as organizational managed wallets, they have different interests, they have different processes that need to be streamlined by the
right,
technology itself, which is what we aim to do. And matching those user needs, but also just, thinking about all the traditional application security concerns, everything having to do with sometimes disregarded by users who aren't knowledgeable,
right,
basic browser security issues. Um, and all that can happen based on that, based on, each technology used essentially being a technology that needs to be maintained with a bunch of dependencies, and it all needs to be maintained. And then sometimes those heavily open source projects can't get funding again, or become end of life. And like, what to do when those dependencies aren't necessarily maintained. And luckily the community often chimes in because we're all very incentivized. So I mean, the fact that the value,
mm,
um kind of in a value sense, and the value of the network is aligned with the progress and development of each network. So people are going to chime in to benefit every single aspect and use all of their knowledge and skill sets to do that.
right,
Um, just because that very, very directly impacts the value of
correct.
each network. So I really like that aspect.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely. And speaking of today's cybersecurity trends, like we have been like looking at the cyber trend based on the OAPS directions that we've been given with, and very thanks to OAPS for taking this initiative of bringing down and scaling the top 10 vulnerabilities where each industry and each organization on an individual level needs to focus on. So when this AI trend has been scaled up to like a level where everybody has now started creating dependency on some level on AI, right? Whether it's on in from a coding perspective, like software development perspective, or a testing, or maybe some another role. So I have seen case studies where AI is being used for many misuse cases. One heavy example of that was I wouldn't disclose the full information, but just a short overview of this case. So this person basically it used and trained AI to create passports, and somehow he did it so well in that area, and while having that fake passport getting scanned at the airport, so it didn't flag for any GPT trained content. The software scanner, it basically like bypassed the security check, so it didn't like flag anything on it. So we can understand the risk, right? So when we talk about this pay five stack layer, so the fraud detection is like it becomes very what do you say, it becomes really important to focus more on that aspect, because the kind of misuse cases that the people are creating around the globe, right, it's pretty huge. And at some point maybe we'll not be able to bear uh, that cost, right? So unlike the like traditionally what we've been doing, like having a rule based systems, and generalizing each and every current security threat that we have, I think our focus should be like slight more on such cases as well, especially the risk layer, and then identity layer, because it becomes a huge issue once you have lost your identity, right? And I've just read the entire article, and I was really like in my head, all of these questions started emerging as to what would happen if if this misuse case was never been caught, on by somebody. So there will be people who would be coming up with more and more scams, more and more such occurrence would have happened. And just thinking of the reputational damage, or maybe the cause it would cause, that it I think it would be very heavy, you know so all the this ML and all AI ML powered concept, it I think the risk layer is something that as an additional angle that I think people need to focus more on.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well said. Yeah, it's a real deal breaker. Um, yeah, I mean, just everything could speed up for for good or for bad, and it's just like, how do we keep it to the former rather than the latter?
Right.
In a nutshell, yeah, it's crazy. Um, yeah, and
I've also
yeah,
seen it some of the other traditional like mostly in BFSI sectors. I mean, wouldn't say exactly in that, but there are some other organizations as well which fail for keeping an appropriate audit trials, which some of the other time leads to pretty good disaster. I've seen misuse cases at that area as well.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's good to recognize these, um,
Right,
and viewing it from the misuse case perspective and all. I just, it definitely, verifies that the threat modeling is the go-to approach because it's sufficiently adaptable. It's about asking the questions, mapping them to the layers as you mentioned,
right,
and it's not going to necessarily be some sort of predefined um, set of risks, and that is going to, yeah, that's going to, become increasingly complex in terms of
correct,
how much that's the case. It's going to go, become chaotic increasingly. I mean, it already is. So just managing the chaos in a general sense. Um, what can you do about it? Um, yeah, I
I
mean,
think
what,
we can spread more and more awareness, more and more like each and every individual's methodology and approach differs when it comes to reviewing the architecture, I believe. So I think everybody needs to incorporate threat profiling and threat modeling as an initial a go-to for their assessment, because it really helps for us as well to identify each and every instances, cater each and every workflow around it, and we may be able to build better and resilient and map to the real world threat cases, and then we can go ahead and assess if that's actually a false condition or a true condition, because nowadays web is turning into an API. So again, API have become the backbone of security. So if these are not strengthened and secure enough, then again, the cycle keeps on repeating. And as per the today's cyber, threats, the trend that has been happening. So I've seen a lot of instances where APIs are the primary culprit. Due to the lack of design structure in the API, due to some lack of coding practices, due to some lack of security implementation, and that brought the whole company down, causing a lot of more reputational damage. That's the trend that I've seen so far.
Yeah, yeah, that's how it goes. And yeah, people only really know what they see for the most part. Yeah, I mean, as far as the reputation aspect, so it doesn't really matter what kind of goes on, it will impact that. And when those threats approach and are implemented very quickly, that's just it's scary.
But it's yeah, we just got off track. But coming back to our topic, like about Filecoin, but yeah, there are some interesting use cases that I can relate to personally for using this technology. It's like having digital evidence, chain of custody. Like I think Web3 is also have archivable platforms, right? It allows to program, like it's a programmable storage deals, like bringing in the flexibility around it, right? So I think that's pretty good advantage of it, and the fact that it allows us to take the ownership of our own data, and climate the data preservation is something that is pretty good and quite effective.
Oh yeah, very well said. Very well said. It's the chain of custody is just so addresses so much,
Right,
and yeah, and there are just so many tools and so many libraries and so many layers and ways that Filecoin tackles this. So it's just it's really exciting. There's always more. Um, it's just yeah, I really
right,
think that this is the future of security and how like it should be the default.
right,
Approaching it this way it really should be. So yeah, glad to be kind of working to make that the default and the norm. And not necessarily for everyone to have to understand that in this level of technical depth. But using that as the underlying methodologies to uh, protect enterprise users and just all of their assets is just a big goal of ours. So
right.
very exciting. Great. So if you don't mind, I guess it, like what's one key takeaway for the user end as far as keeping them secure when using Web3 tech?
Right. So I would say like Web3, uh, it's just not about the coins, but it's about the infrastructure that empowers the user, because it gives you the right to own your data and gain a complete ownership of it, and you are basically responsible of the entire design model of it. And thinking about it from the another aspect, so it's not just a storage, but it's more of a trustless, cryptographically verifiable preeminence, I would say. So if you've ever felt like locked out of your own data, so Filecoin is the answer. So that would help you store your own data on a decentralized cloud.
Great. Yeah. Definitely check it out and more Filecoin related content to come. as far as how to approach this. So for all of you new to Web3, new to Filecoin users out there who are viewing this, more to come. Very exciting. Thank you so much, Antara.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Of course.